Okay, and now we can go on to some titles. If you saw the previous video, you noticed how we picked out the fill color and the stroke color to try and increase readability. But if you're just getting here, then we can check it out. So I've got this title, this graphic selected in the timeline. I'm in the graphics workspace, and the essential graphics panel is open here. So I've got this selected, and now I see I've got one layer inside this graphics clip. And if I choose it by selecting it, now I got all these controls. And you can see that the title there is we have all these text controls. And a lot of these are familiar. You can choose the different font. You can scroll through the different fonts you might have in the system. You can go and look for more fonts online through Adobe Fonts. Now that we have a larger font, we can actually turn the size down a little. And we can adjust the tracking, the kerning, or the leading, or even the baseline to make them super or subscript. So if I want to demonstrate the tracking for you, I will go ahead and type another word in there. And let's just bring that down a little so we can see it. So it is a wave of water. It's a water wave, but I want to adjust the tracking. That is the space between the two words. So I'm going to click and drag this value, and we can see that all of the letters are adjusting their space between. Now if I undo that, and you'll see that the kerning is actually grayed out. And that is because kerning applies to a single letter or a point between two letters. Now you see that I've got the cursor right here. The tracking can be adjusted for a single letter. So again, the tracking is for all of the letters in a text object, and kerning is only available if you have one character selected. And now we can adjust the kerning for that single character. Okay, I'm going to undo that. And let's have a look then. Perhaps now we want to change Earth to a different font, so let's select the Earth layer. I'll just use one at random, like Helvetica here. And we can adjust a bunch of other settings here too, like the faux bold setting. We can always choose the bold option of this font family and add the full bold on top. So many possibilities. But if we go back to just the regular, that's probably enough to still be read. Although I think that maybe we would want to adjust the tracking a little so that all the letters can be visible. And perhaps we would decrease the stroke just a little. So the other thing to keep in mind is when you select the title in the program monitor, you can see that it's got its boundary box all around it, but then also you'll notice this circle with a cross in the middle, and that is the anchor point. For example, we can scale it up and we see that it's getting bigger, but that one corner is staying right there, right where our anchor point is. So if I undo and then actually move this anchor point to the middle, and then but the center point stays in the same spot. Now, the same can be said for rotation. And if we move it again over here to the corner and rotate it, now we can see it rotates around that point. Another thing you want to keep in mind when you're making titles is that you want people at home that are watching on their television to be able to see it. And so we will actually need to employ the title safe and action safe guides in our program monitor. And we can easily find them by right clicking or control clicking and choosing safe margins. And that will display the safe margins right here. You'll notice that there's two concentric rectangles. The outer one is action safe, and it denotes that the outside of that line is 10%. That's the last 10%. And this one is the 20% line, and that is considered to be title safe. So this one is title safe, and this one is action safe. So any important title or words or message that you want to get across to the viewer needs to be inside of this box, and any important action needs to be inside of this box. Otherwise, there could be a variance in the bezel of the TV manufacturer and could cover up some of that action later. You don't really notice this as much on the computer when you watch, because then obviously you see the whole frame. You'll notice that I've actually added this Safe Margins button onto my program monitor because I find that I like to toggle it on and off easily. And you can add custom buttons by clicking this plus sign and choosing any of them that you want to add. And there's that Safe Margins button. All I had to do was drag it down here, just as if I wanted to drag this one perhaps like that, but I don't actually want that, so I'm just going to put this back, or I'll just choose cancel, and there we go. Now you'll notice that all of the text that I've made so far has been what we call a point text. That is, I just clicked and then started typing. But the other method of creating text on screen is to use a paragraph box, or to create paragraph text. So if I choose the type tool and I click and drag an outline, that will now be the constraints under which all of my text that I type is going to fit into. So if I just have a bunch of stuff that I typed, and now I choose the selection tool, I can manipulate this text box that I've created, and if I scale down the font size, you can see all of that gibberish typing that I did still stays inside of the text box when I scale the font size up and down, which is useful if you're trying to get it to fit specifically within a design. Alright, now if I were to get rid of that, I'm just going to undo that. And one last thing is, if we wanted to save this particular style, we can choose the air layer and then go to our section here that says Master Styles. And there are none currently, but we could create one, which I think we should do. We'll create it, and we'll name it Air Style. Now you can see that it shows up in our project panel. And over here, if I scroll through, if I were to choose a different title, and I come here to the Earth layer, and now if I choose here, I can see that Air Style comes up. If I choose it, boom, it instantly copies fill color, stroke, all the different variables that we chose.